how to navigate right side up in an upside down world. That's what we've been talking about the last few weeks, and so we're going to continue that. Or it's navigating right side up in an upside down world, either way. But the idea is we want to know how to do this. So when I say that to navigate, we're assuming some things, and we know what we say when you assume some things, right? That's not always the best thing. And so we're assuming that you have an objective or a direction, right? If you're going to navigate, if you're going to move from one place to the next, we're assuming that you want to go there, and that's what you want to do, right? So how do we do this? And so Jordan, a few weeks ago, he introduced this idea of really the heart behind this is you have to be right side up, and that's really by surrendering to Jesus, to surrender to God. And then also to be successful. Jesus said, if you want to be great, you have to learn to be a servant. And now that's completely upside down what the world says. It says, hey, you want to be great, take care of yourself, do it your own way, be the king, right? And so it really comes, and then he says if you want to be not only a servant, but he uses the word slave. And so if you want to be great, so if you're going to navigate, so that's another word that I really feel like I want to just kind of think through. Navigating somewhere is actually moving from one place to the next. So when we were in Memphis, before we had GPS on your phones, we didn't have what I think Garmin. Remember those Garmins they had too? We didn't have that either. But my wife had a computer, and I could tell her where I was at, and she could kind of give me some direction. She'd be like, I was like, Mama Bird, this is just give me some directions here. And usually it ended up in a fight, and I'd find out where I'm going, but she would help me. And she had a kid, she had a baby, and she was trying to navigate all that. But navigating you from one place to another is not as easy, and it's not. I mean, there comes some work in that, and you have to assume that you want to go there. So we say, like this time of year, we have goals, right? So some of your goals is to lose weight, right? Some of your goals is to maybe gain weight, and that's very few of us, but who knows, right? Maybe you want to gain some muscle or something there's something you want to do, and so in order to do that, you're going to have to maybe add some things to your life or take some things out of your life. If you want to finish school, if you want to maybe have healthier relationships, all these are goals. And so what we're assuming through this study is that you, in the deepest part of you, want to be more Christ-like. That your desire as a disciple of Jesus is, as a follower of Christ, is I want to grow in maturity, I want to grow in trust, I want to be a little bit more like Jesus. I just want to be a little bit more like Jesus. Now again, that sounds great on paper, we're all yay, but what does that take, and how do you navigate? Because I don't know about you, but usually you put those goals out, and then someone makes your favorite dessert. You know, I've gotten a crazy habit of eating entire pies by myself, right? Like entire pies. The kids don't like pie. How can you not like pie? And I don't want to waste pie, right? And sure enough, here I am eating half this pie and then all the pie. I think for my birthday, I ate like 2 chocolate pies completely. Like, that's just not good. It's not good. But I wasn't complaining as I was doing it. But if my goal is to lose weight or be more accountable what I'm eating, that's not going to get me to where I need to go. So how do we do that? So what we talked about last week, we first believe you have to be a learner. If you're going to, and that's really the word learner, actually the idea comes as a disciple. We're going to be a disciple, a follower of Jesus. So just the very nature of following Jesus says, hey, I'm a disciple of Jesus, and my desire is to be like Jesus. And so in order to do that, you need to be a learner. And to do that, we said last week, you want to lean in with curiosity when it would be easier to be cynical and critical, right? So I think we live in a world now, it's super easy to be cynical and critical about what everybody's doing, especially if you have Facebook or any kind of social media. You're like, loser, 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 you know. There's a part of it. Maybe you're not that way, but I tend to naturally have a gifting of being cynical or critical of what people do. What he says to do, or what we talked about last week, is to help fight against that. Let curiosity. And that curiosity lets you help navigate people, lets you help learn more, lean in more, than be critical. Because usually, as you go through life, there's things you've already experienced, and you're like, nah, that didn't work. And because you've learned, like you've just learned some things. Well, when you're more curious, you're willing to listen to other people with different views, different ideas, maybe better ways, right? Better ways. And so that's, I think, if you're really going to navigate through this right side up and upside down, I really believe you need to learn to lean in and be curious. And it'll help you to find joy in the things you do. Curiosity, they say it killed the cat, but that actually brings joy, right? It brings joy to things like, well, why does this happen? Or how did this happen? We were watching a football game yesterday, and Aaron was asking me, and I could see he wanted to like what I like, and so he's like looking up some of the players, and he's just trying to be a part of what Dad's doing. He's not really interested in that, but he's trying to. And so I commend the idea that he's at least being curious to figure it out. And then today we're going to talk about, so if we're going to navigate right side up and upside down world, we need to grow relationships and develop systems to help you make good and godly decisions in your life. Let me say that again. You need to grow relationships and develop systems that help you make good and godly decisions in your life. And so the way to do that, you have to be, what we say around here is to be known. You have to bring people in your life. Now, if you're introverted, if you're there's a part of you that's like, man, I don't need more people, this probably is hard for you or more difficult for you. Or if you're a lone ranger, you just kind of like to get things done the way you do it and just like to kind of, I just like my way and I don't want someone else to give me, it's probably difficult. But listen, if you're really, there's going to come a point in your life where a system, some sort of system or relationship of accountability is going to help you make some good godly decisions. And if you don't have that, you're probably going to make some heartache or hurtful or painful decisions that's going to affect your life. And so how do we do that? How do we bring people into our life? And so again, it takes a little bit of effort on ours. It takes a little bit of we say common sense, but it's maybe not common because we all have people in our lives that would like bring us down, hurt us, or encourage us to make bad decisions, right? We have those people, and so how do we intentionally be so that we can develop relationships of healthy people? And I think that's where it starts. You need to seek healthy people in your life. And so what I mean healthy doesn't mean they're like super fit or those things. They can be healthy in different areas, and it's good to have multiple people. So I have people that are healthy financially. They make good financial decisions for their life. They don't just buy on the spur. They don't have a lot of credit card debt. They're making healthy decisions. That's somebody, and really what matters to me is a practitioner. People that know what to do but don't do it, that's not really a healthy relationship. I mean, I can read a book for that, right? I can watch a video for that. I can watch a TED Talk and be like, oh, okay. But somebody that's heard the TED Talk and begins to apply that to their life or hears some good advice and a practitioner of that, now I'm listening. And then somebody that's actually like successful, has some experience and have really worked through that for a set of time, some time and really seen some pitfalls, like that's a healthy person. And so I think it's important because a lot of times, especially if you're younger, some of your friends are just not healthy, right? They're not healthy. I look back and think of some of the high school friends I had, or maybe some of the kids that were in my college. Some of those people weren't healthy relationships. They were friends, but they weren't healthy people to give me good advice. Healthy people care about you. Healthy people want the best for you, and so they're helping you make some good decisions. So this is some indicators of or how I know that they're a healthy person. First, they challenge you. They challenge you. They step in and give you sometimes some hard to hear instructions. I think of one lady when I was looking to ask Tina to marry me, and Tina was in her mind she was at a place where she thought that getting a job was going to make her happy and solve all of her problems. Like this is if she just made, because again she came out of a very difficult situation, and she thought this was going to help her. And what the lady told me, and it was hard because I had a ring and I was ready to get married, right? I was on a mission, right? But she's like, look, you need to wait and let her get a job. Tina had never had a full-time job up to this point. She'd never had. She's always done odd jobs. She needs to have a job and see it. And so for about 6 months, Tina had a job where she worked 50, 60 hours a week, where I worked, and our schedules were opposite, so we didn't see each other a lot as much as we wanted. And so, but that was a season where God really used that advice for me, not to hurry up, but let God. And then finally she's like, okay, I really want Shawn in my life, and I want to make some decisions that this job isn't going to solve everything. And I think, just having someone say, whoa, Shawn, look at, again, I wasn't like, yay, I love that advice. I want to wait. I love waiting. No one loves to wait, and no one loves when someone tells you. But it's important. Have somebody in your life that challenges you. And then another thing is, this is really important. People in your life that help you grow in godly character. So how do I know some advice is good? Now, look, I have people that I've had some really great advice that were people that are not Christian, never claimed to be Christians, they've given me good, sound advice. My dad gave me some good advice. I've had some other people that have given me really good advice. But there comes a place where the advice that helps me, and this is how I know if they're a healthy relationship, their presence in my life helps me or makes me want to be more like Jesus. That they challenge my character, they challenge the things I'm doing. I'm not less, I want to step more into my relationship with God because of this person in my life. And so that's a really important person that you want in your life. So they challenge you and they help you develop a strong godly character. Those are really good people. That's how you identify. A good test is to, again, and I think you test these relationships. I think you find out, what kind of people do I have in my life? And one thing that I have found is you tell somebody in your life something really good that's happened. So tell them a super success. Like, so you say you earned an extra $1,000. Now, if they tell you how they've earned $2,000 or $2,500 or they give you they one up your story, that's someone that's competing against you. Right? That's somebody that's like, hey, we're in this together. You know what? I've done this. So that kind of gives you a little bit. Again, this isn't scientific. This is not scripture. This is Shawn's own process, okay? So that's one way. So if someone outbids you or is always better than you, it's like, okay, be better than me, but you don't need to be one of these people in my life to help me. Or if they always want what you have. Like, so if you get something, you get $1,000 and they're like, wow, I wish I had $1,000. That'd be real nice. They're not really happy of your success. They're just like, man, they're kind of needy, right? Well, I could really use it. I could really do this. The ones that I found that really help me is when I tell them of the success in my life, they're just like they celebrate it like they just had that success. Like, that's amazing. Like, man, I'm so proud of you that you got $1,000. Man, just now be wise with it. I'm so proud. I know you put a lot of work into this, and they celebrate your win. That's a good way. That's a good way to understand or to figure that. And so again, it's good to have people in your life, and especially when it comes to your faith decisions, your spiritual growth. Like, I do believe it's easier, or I'd say this way, it's more difficult to say no to people that love you than a process or a thought, right? Or a command. Like you say, thou shalt not steal, but when someone says, hey, you shouldn't take that, like it's a person that you know and cares about you and giving direction, it's harder to say no. So one thing that we think through here is with the kids. When I think of children and when I think of kids, I think the more relationships that these kind of relationships these kids can have in their life. So believe it or not, this may shock you, my kids are starting to listen less and less to me. Like, they really are. I know. Oh, sit still. Like, I know. It's tragic. They're really, and they're actually starting to look at me like, I'm kind of stupid. Now, they'll tell you no, but they just have a way of blocking out what you say. So what my solution to that is put some other people that are good, maybe, so people that have challenged me, people that love me, I put them in their life and hopefully develop that relationship so that when they say, Dad doesn't know, that person will will say the same thing I would say, but it's them saying it, so it's a genius, right? It's awesome for them to say that, and so celebrate those things and put enough people around their life so when they do make a decision, especially if they turn away from the things or the things of the faith, that they're not just turning away from what dad and mom say, but they're actually a community of people that love them, that care about them, that they're walking away from something greater than just an idea or a command, right? So again, those are just those things. So challenge you, help you grow in character. And then, so how do you do that? So the minute you start seeking, so you're finding those friends, you're dipping your toe into something, you're asking for some feedback. You're trying to bring people in your life. So let me give you a little bit of help in this, okay? So seeking feedback or seeking this kind of people takes humility. You have to come to places like, I don't know everything. I know that's hard, especially this know-it-all generation, right? With your iPhones and your fancy computers, right? You know everything, or you can figure it out. There's a difference between knowing the idea and living through it. That's why practitioners matter to me. Like someone could tell me how to plant a church, or someone can tell me how to raise kids, but seeing them raise kids that I would want to have, when I see their adult children, I'm like, man, I want my kids to be like that. Then now I'm more interested in listening. But again, doesn't mean I can't listen to everybody, but that makes me want to. So it takes humility and it takes trust. And so I think a lot of times too, and I think, again, I'm kind of honing in on this a little different than I did earlier today, but the idea of, I think with social media and because our crowd is younger here this morning, is we tend to share private things publicly a lot more than what I did when I was younger. Like, there's certain things, it's great that, you haven't had a bowel movement for 2 days, but do you need to put that on social media? Like, is that something? You're like, I would never. You're like, oh, I'm sick, or you've had a bad day or whatever, right? Again, so find trusted people to share that stuff to, and then another way to do that. So how do I find trusted people? I do this. I tell them something about me that only they would know, or something private enough that they would know. I test it. And then if somebody else tells me what I told them, I know that that's probably not somebody I need to trust with some information. Now, maybe that relationship will grow to another point, or maybe it's an opportunity. It's like, look, I was going to try, but I don't know if you're trustworthy in this way. I really want somebody that I can trust in these moments. And so that's a good way. And if they're sharing it, or they're proud that you told them something and they tell other people, that's just, again, this is me. I'm not telling you this is script. This is how I feel trust. This is how I know I can trust somebody, because at some point I need to disclose some things that I'm really walking through. And life is messy, and life is hard, and I need to know that I can trust you with some personal things that are in my life. And so I don't take that lightly, and I think, and if I really want a system in my life that at some point is going to be strong enough, and they're going to have to be able to take a lot of stuff. One guy said this way, he's like, there should be at least 1 or 2 people that could send you to jail or to prison by the things you're sharing. So for them to develop into that relationship, look, it's not a weekday, it's not just one day or a meeting or 1 cup of coffee. It's a pattern, and it's I'm trusting with more and more. I'm opening myself up, and as they show themselves trustworthy, then I'm depending on that person to help me. Okay, so these are some things. So you're seeking, there's humility, trust, and then this is what keeps us from doing it, because you're gonna be like, yes, I need somebody. This also opens you up to criticism. And everybody loves when the mother-in-law comes over and tells you what you're not doing right? Like, everybody loves criticism, right? Everybody loves, sometimes people are like, so what did I do wrong? Or what did I do? It's like, really, do you really want to know? And it's amazing who people ask that opinion. Like, there's very few people I really want them to tell me what they really think of me. So as a pastor, a lot of times I'm preaching, right? I want to know if I preach a good sermon. Sometimes I'm just not feeling my self-esteem is low, and I just need a little kick me up. How'd I do? Be careful. They'll tell you what they really think, or they'll tell you something that you want. So divides it up this way. A fan will tell you everything. Like, you're awesome. Oh God, you got it together. Man, I wish I was like you. You're amazing. Boy, one day I'll be like. And if you read only that mail, you're going to be, it's going to cause you trouble. Then there's also the foe. no matter what you do, is never good enough, right? So that criticism, so you think you trust somebody, you bring in, you share some stuff, and they're just going to criticize. Like, they're just going to take it. They're like, oh, I've been waiting for you to ask me this, you know? And so they're a foe. And nothing they say is, and this is how you can tell. It comes across very personal. And you're always defensive. Like, if someone's a critic of me, they make me feel defensive, not encouraged, they're just like, so I just like, whoa, easy, and so there's a point. And then there's the friend. The friend is that relationship that you trust, the person that cares about you, again, that are excited and celebrating your successes as it was their very own. There's somebody, and listen, remember when you were told when you were a kid, like, if you have 3 good friends, or you can count 5 good friends your entire life, you're a rich person. That's absolutely true. Thankfully, I have a lot of, I think God has really blessed me, but I have some really good people, not everybody. Now, what I found is there are more people that consider me their friend than I consider them. Like, there's just a time, like, they consider me. And again, I think that's just maybe the nature of where I am in my life, the position I hold, those things. But who I really consider my friends, there's a few people that I really trust that will give me the honest feedback that I need and help me stay accountable, okay? Because what we're going to talk about, and we're going to move to this, is how we know the story about King David and Bathsheba. And this is why we want to hone in is creating a system of relationships. Because any moment in the system, and so King David, we know that he was successful. He's the guy, so if you're not familiar with him, you're like, I don't know who King David is. He's the guy that killed Goliath, the big giant guy with the stone, remember? And so he's that guy. He was the shepherd boy that Jesus that Samuel found in the backside of the desert. He was in there and taking care of his dad's sheep, and he comes in. He was a harp player, remember? The harp player, I don't know if you know this. This is some of the highlights of David. Also, he's the guy that King Saul threw the spear at twice. He threw him at it twice. Like, so he has a great story of how this is the way the Bible described him, that he was a man after God's own heart. So, man, you talk about a pillar of faith, and then Jesus refers to himself as the son of David, right? He's the son of David. Like, so he's notable. I mean, he's a man of honor, but there's one season of his life that if he would have had a system, if he would have criticism, and again, I think it takes, if you want to operate or you want to navigate a right side up in an upside down world, you need some relationships. You need to help create a system that helps expose and brings out some accountability so that you don't find yourself in a situation that David is. And I use this, and this is what I say. If you look at if David can find himself in this situation, so I tell the guys that I'm with, that serve under with me and serve, I'm always saying this, I'm saying, greater men than us have fallen. Greater men than us have fallen, because King David was a man after God's own heart. He was a man of valor, a mighty man. He was a man of godly character. He was a godly man, a man's man. He was the kind of guy that you all wanted to be like. And he finds himself in a moment where he falls into temptation. He gets a little lazy on the front end, and his system fails him, because if he would have had some sort of system accountability, he would have probably moved past, or it would not have been such a horrific event in his life. He's like, what is it? Well, and this is why this is important. It's because the truth is, all of us are accountable. And one day, it tells us in Romans 14:12, it says, so then each of us will give an account of himself to God. Each of us will give that account, that we have, how we live this life, how we've navigated this life. Again, this is assuming you want to grow spiritually. This is assuming that you have some goals in your life, that you want to be considered a little more like Christ this next year. This is assuming that stuff. So you're leaning in with curiosity instead of criticizing, and you're also assuming that you want to. And now you're growing relationships, or you're bringing people into your life, and you're creating a system that'll help you will help you make good, godly decisions in your life and ministry. So it says in 2 Samuel chapter 11 is where we'll be in the Bible. 2 Samuel chapter 11, David, it says in verse 1, it says, in the spring of the year, the time when kings go out to battle, David sent Joab, his servant, with him and all Israel. And they ravaged the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah. But David remained in Jerusalem. So David, this was the time when kings went out. It says, the Bible kind of brings out this contradiction. Kings go out, but David stayed home. So David just things got easy. Now listen, David had a successful, during the early years, you see his character developed, you see all these things, and he had a lot of men around him helping him stay accountable. And I think everything when it starts out, usually it's like, so think about when you're a child. You had your mom and dad, you had your teachers, you had all these things like helping you. Then you got out of the house and now you're adulting, right, full time, and it's a little bit more scary, right? It's like your training wheels are off, some of the decisions hurt a little more, your accountability system, or maybe you're a little confident in that, and so you're trying to develop some sort of system or something in those days when you're by yourself and you have no one else really watching over you. Okay, so what happens when you're king? See, David was king. He had earned the respect he had. He had earned the position. Even so much that when he said, hey, I'm not going out, Joab, they all went out. No one questioned his decision because he was king and he knew. They trusted him. There was a trust with him. Like David knew, hey, this is not the normal practice, but you know what? David knows what he's doing. David knows what he's doing. And so it says in verse 2, and it happened late one afternoon when David arose from his couch, was walking on the roof of his king's house, and saw from the roof a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful. So here he was. He just kind of a moment of maybe he was tired or just kind of drained, and he just couldn't go out this time. But anyway, this was a moment where his reason, he began to not think clearly. And what he needed someone around him to question what he was doing. He needed some sort of system around him to say, whoa, is this the best decision? Is this what's right? And so it says in verse 27, basically he sent, actually it goes on and says that he sent for Bathsheba. So he tells his servants to go get her. And then if you read through that chapter, there's all these, he's sending people to help take care of these issues. And so he eventually lays with Bathsheba. They have and then she finds out she's pregnant. And so now he's trying to cover his decision. Now, he has servants that are all involved in all this thing. But the problem was no one had the position or place of authority in David's life where they could say, wait, king, is this the best decision to do? Are you sure? You got 6 wives. Is that going to be enough? Are you sure? Just somebody. Because they were servants. They were below him. And again, as we get successful, as we become, in any area of our life, in our family, we can start making decisions where very few people will question what you're doing because they trust you. And he had earned that trust, but he needed some system of accountability to say, whoa, hey, wait, are you sure this is the best thing? Are you sure? And so no one said nothing. And even so, the point where he's like, okay, I'm gonna cover this up. I'm gonna get Uriah back, and he's gonna be with his wife, and then he'll think it's his kid, even though he looks like me. Like he'll figure. Now Uriah was a man of valor. He was a mighty man. The Bible describes him. He was a noble man, and he was a man that David helped produce. David's character and godliness influenced Uriah to be a man of character, a man that was godly. And so his influence was to Uriah. So he brings Uriah in, and he tries to get him all drunk and get him to spend time with his wife. And he's like, no. He did the noble thing, and he did the right thing. He's like, no, my men are out to battle. I'm not gonna fall for the trap. And that probably irritated David a little bit, right? Because like, how dare you? Because I'm not doing that thing. And so I'm sure it caused a little frustration. And so finally, it came to the point where David would send Uriah with his own letter. He's like, hey, give this to Joab. And on that letter said that when you find a place that the battle is going good, send Uriah. And then when you think it, then bring everybody back except Uriah so that he gets killed. And so So he sends his own death letter. Uriah brings his own death letter to Joab, and Joab reads it. Not even Joab, one of his mighty men, could say, hey, David, dear David, I think this is a bad idea. Have you really reconsidered this? P.S., everything's going well, right? Like there could have been something that, they followed the order, they did what he said, and then he sends reports like, hey, Uriah is dead. And so David, it's over. So he, over the morning time goes over, he brings Bathsheba into his life and he marries her, or she becomes his wife. And so it seems like everything's okay. But again, I think this is what happens, is if you don't have these kind of accountability, and again, it can start small. Look, I'm not telling you like you're going to fall. I'm not sure what's going on in your life. But there should be, the point is to start bringing people in your life now so that when you are successful, when you are grow, when you are have those moments, greater people than us have fallen. And if you're around any longer than 10 years and a decade, you'll see how people's decisions have cost them. The very thing that you would have said, never David, never David. I know, never David. But sure enough, here David was. It says, and the Bible says, it says in verse 27, it says, but the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. Displeased the Lord. And so, and we're okay, a lot of times that things happen, but what's really hard for us to face is the consequences that come with those bad decisions. The consequences would be the death of this newborn baby. This baby would die. The death of his own kids, Absalom, his family from that point on would be in crisis and chaos. We'd see, just turmoil. And if he only would have had some system early on that could have helped indicate, or some relationships that he had developed that help him. And again, this is how did I personally in my own life, how do I do this? How do I do this? And so again, one thing that happened when we were living in Memphis, there's an exit. So I started thinking through, anytime I make a mistake or I find myself in a place where I don't want to be, like financially, relationally, I start to backtrack. It started as just kind of an idea, and then it was like, also, I want to help people not make the same decisions that I've made. So I feel like part of my job is to help navigate my kids to not make the same dumb decisions I've made. Now, again, they're probably going to make some decisions that I don't really want them to or whatever, but I want to try to help them as much as I can. And I want to try to help you. So what I would do is I would find myself, well, how did I get here? So what I do, so if I find myself doing something I don't want to do, it's sinful behavior or not healthy behavior or something, I backtrack and I'm like, okay, so this is where I made the mistake. So I'm going to put my phone away at 10 o'clock at night so I don't get tempted in those areas. I'm going to bring somebody to someone to be able to see everything on my history on my phone because I don't want to fall into this decision. I want to do a good job of what God's called me to do as a pastor, so I'm going to develop this system to help me stay accountable, that my sermons are on task, they're on point, that I'm doing what God's called me to do. So I create systems. And the way I got that was, a lot of times we find ourselves when we were in Memphis, there was an exit that was our exit, then there was another exit, and then if you miss that exit, it's like a 10 to 15, 20-minute drive to get back to where you want to go. And one time my wife and I were talking, we might have been arguing, I don't remember exactly, but some reason it was love. We were so entranced with each other that we just missed the exit. Well, now we missed the exit, and now it devolved into an argument, I believe. But anyway, and then I won't tell you, I didn't take the next exit. I actually found another way, but it's not legal. But anyway, the idea is that that one decision took me down a road I didn't want to be on. And so that's how I process that in my mind, is if I land up here, it's not just like fate or chance. It's really decisions or lack of focus or a lack of accountability. But if I put enough checkpoints, and sometimes I might, for me, my mind sometimes just goes blank. I just kind of operate. So I need a lot of checkpoints. No, this needs to go here. This needs to go there. Again, you may not need those things, but I know me, and I'm really honest. I try to be really honest to me, because the last thing I want to do Is someone talk about the good part of my life? Man, he was a man of God. He was a man that did great things for God. He's a man that loved the Lord. But man, that one season, this system he didn't bring someone into his life. He didn't have a relationship to be willing to step in. Thankfully, David had somebody. He did have, it was like the emergency of emergency. Don't press this button until this. But God sends Nathan. He was a prophet. He was a prophet. He shows up to David, and he starts to tell David this story about how this guy had stole this little lamb, and David, a shepherd, was really into it, and he couldn't believe this guy who had many lambs took this one lamb, and God was connecting both of these with what he did to Uriah, and this guy was and so David just got upset and furious, and he's like, man, this guy, he's like, let me know who he is. He needs to pay 4 times what it costs for that. He needs to pay for what he's done. And then he says this in verse 7 or verse 12 or verse 7. He says, Nathan said to David, "You are the man. You're it, David. You did this. You did it." And I'm telling you, what David had forgot in that moment of a non-accountability is he forgot all the people that he hurt. Let me read this to you. This statement. And thankfully, God had put a Nathan in his life. Nathan actually was the last line, like the last hope, but thankfully God put him out. Being held accountable may feel like an attack. May feel like an attack if you're not ready to acknowledge how your poor decisions impact others. So accountability, sometimes feels like an attack. Well, why are you on me? Why not? Because sometimes our poor decisions impact other people. Not sometimes, they always impact other people. Not only was the kingdom affected by this, his family was affected by this, David himself was affected like this. We lost out because actually, scripturally, there actually is a historical record that's a lot of the Psalms that we don't have were during this season of his neglect. Because again, he wasn't right with God. He wasn't pleased. And so I really think that if you want to navigate right side up in an upside down world, you have to bring people into your life. You have to allow people, healthy people, into your life to give you good feedback, give you good counsel in those moments. And again, I would just encourage you to say, man, I don't have anybody. Well, it takes two, right? It takes you to be humble. It takes you to be willing. So a lot of times what doesn't happen, the reason why people don't want to tell you what to do is because you're not willing to do what they've said, right? So I don't just give out advice. As you get older, you realize people don't want to hear what you have to say anyway, so you're like, so if they're not asking you, it's really, you're kind of wasting your time. Usually it's kind of like, you just throw it out there, well, hopefully they'll get it. But usually it's not received. And so from our part, if David, if he really wanted to be held accountable, he would have himself deliberately created a system, developed some relationships of good, godly people to help him in his ministry and his family. And the hardest part about this, and again, I believe all of us have some sort of accountability system. Now, is it effective? Does it keep? Have you woke up this last week thinking, man, I wish I would have, or I'm glad I did? I wish I wouldn't have done this. I wish I would. Man, maybe you need to look at your accountability system. Man, I'm so glad that I brought this person. I'm so glad that I had coffee with this person. I'm so glad that I just questioned this area of my life. Because the truth is, greater people than us, greater individuals than us, have made mistakes that have cost them a lot more, cost them a lot. And I want to learn from those decisions, right? And the truth is, my goal is to be a little more like Jesus. And so I want to help. I need help. I would need help. And I think this really kind of helps. This is why there's the idea of being humble or humbling yourself. Because the truth is, I will ruin my own life. I will ruin my own life. And so I need some good, godly people in my life, and I need to have a good accountability system that helps me stay connected to what's important, stay right with, I'll lie to myself, my heart will deceive me. I know, I'm my biggest enemy. you think of any person that has had success and then have fallen into a trap where they hurt their family and marriage, it's always because there was a lack of some sort of accountability. So again, let me share this last thing, and then we'll be done. So if you want to navigate right side up in an upside down world, lean in with curiosity when it's easy to be cynical or critical, and grow relationships to develop systems to help you make good, godly decisions in your life and ministry. And I believe God will help you navigate. I'm so very grateful for the people God's put in my life. I can honestly say this last 5 years of my life, God has really grown me in a lot of areas. You say, well, I don't need people. No, if that was the case, you would be the weight you want to be, right? You would be doing everything healthy you wanted to do, right? Because you need people in your life to help give you some direction and encouragement. And every area that I have said, I need some accountability in this area, has grown. I've improved in those areas. When I say, man, I really need to lose this Christmas gut, now it's just becoming a gut. It's not a holiday. I just need to lose it. Well, if I have somebody like, hey, I'm going to do this, and if I don't do it, you're gonna call me or whatever. Whatever gets you to be accountable. That's what's going to help you. And so grow those relationships. Put people in your life. Be challenged in your faith, and let God grow you. Because we're assuming this. All of us want to be a little more like Jesus this next year. Let's pray. Jesus, we